On this episode of the NWA 1984 Project, Wrestler Spotlight on Buddy Landel and Bad News Allen, the greatest Royal Rumble, and WWF 1984, and away we go. And welcome back to the NWA 1984 Project. I'm your host, Juan, Cena, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
Super duper.
All right. On this episode, we're going to have another closed-circuit spectacular live from beautiful and palatial Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. Main event of this show will be NWA World Heavyweight Champion Bruiser Brody taking on the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. In addition, we're going to have Dusty Rhodes challenge Ole Anderson for the NWA National Championship, and Tully Blanchard taking on Butch Reed for the NWA World Television Championship. So we have an action-packed card today. In terms of the last show, we didn't get to really talk about why the NWA is on HBO, and I always had a sneaking suspicion. There's definitely a relationship between professional wrestling and HBO. There were shows, MSG house shows on HBO in the mid-70s. And I feel, in 1984, if, we can get our show, our spectaculars on HBO 4 times a year, it really boosts up the NWA standing nationwide. Again, this is a pre-pay-per-view era world. So, getting these spectaculars on, nationwide television is going to be a big deal for us. 4 times a year, I think it's a good amount for pseudo pay-per-views, proto pay-per-views, whatever you want to call it. And I think that was really, but yeah, I even used the old HBO opening on that episode, so I thought that was pretty neat to see. So yeah, that was a great matchup. The main event there was Harley Race taking on Bruiser Brody for the world title in a bloodbath. Lots of blood. I always wondered, in the Attitude Era, during the Attitude Era, why wasn't HBO hot to trot to get a pro wrestling program? Would it be, ECW or another promotion? HBO, you can do basically anything you want on that show in terms of, bad language, partial or even full nudity, and violence. If you watch the television shows at that time, they were chock full of that kind of stuff. And if you watch HBO, today, he's still quite a bit of it on that channel. So I always wondered why, professional wrestling, when they were doing that in the non-PG era of professional wrestling, they weren't hot to try to get a wrestling program. I guess they chose not to go on that route. But just like, many other cable channels, throughout history, a lot of them started out with professional wrestling. Would it be, obviously TBS, USA Network, Spike TV when they were still TNN and still trying to make a name for them nationally. Make a name for themselves nationally. They all had wrestling programs on their networks. Even, that practice still goes on today, where it would be the, the WIN Network with MLW, or even whatever weird channel that Impact Wrestling is on. I think they're on, I don't know, some Paramount channel or something. I don't know what they're on now. In pro wrestling, and in terms of history, it's a cheap show to produce, and it does pretty decent ratings, especially for the amount of money they spend on it, so which is not a whole lot historically. That has changed with the advent of Monday Night Raw, and now different cable channels are bidding on Raw. We'll go to Fox, we'll stay on USA, who knows? But that's going to be a big money deal for the WWE moving forward. And it's the way that kind of television and the WWE network has now changed the industry, where you're getting revenue from the WWE network. It's not necessarily, a particular pay-per-view is not necessarily drawing you more subscribers or getting you more views on the streaming. So, you're not really increasing your income that way. The only way they can increase income now is by getting better sponsorship deals on whatever network and whatever network deal they're getting. So, TV on cable is still their number one revenue source. So that's why we see a lot more main event matches. We recently just saw a fantastic Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins match, which might be one of the match of the year so far into 2018. So again, as the importance from house shows to pay-per-views, now the television as the most important thing, that's why we have to kind of change the format. So it's the way that wrestling has changed, especially with the advent of all these streaming networks. Now, Ring of Honor has a streaming network, Impact has a streaming network, New Japan obviously is a streaming network. That is the wave of the future, and I'm surprised that YouTube doesn't have one. I know Twitch does some things with, they've done some things with AAA, they do some stuff with House of Hardcore. So again, wrestling being a big presence on whatever the way we consume our entertainment. And again, wrestling was big on the Dumont network back in the day in the 50s. It really kind of, since the advent of television, has always been a big deal. And as the technology changes and the way we consume, media changes, professional wrestling will always be on the cutting edge of that because, it's just the way it's always been. That's one of the reasons why we, hey, we're going to have, NWA on HBO in 1984. So that's the kind of the reasoning behind that. So we're going to start off with our wrestler spotlight, and we're going to start off by talking about our good friend, Buddy Landel. Now, Matt, I have a question for you right off the bat when it comes to Buddy Landel. Obviously, Buddy Landel, great worker, fantastic talker, but you think the fact that he used the moniker of Nature Boy, you think that hurt him a little bit?
Yes.
Did he come across like a Ric Flair wannabe or a carbon copy of Ric Flair?
I think, to a certain degree, there's that. Oh, what if he ditched? Because he kept it for a long time.
He had it forever. I mean, he never essentially got rid of it. Now, he was a fantastic worker who tended to be his own worst enemy when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs and illegal drugs and what have you. And every time he got a good spot, he would no-show, or he was essentially unreliable.
Well, Tony Schiavone, the Nature Boy Buddy Landel, is back on the scene, baby, and I ain't hanging around back either, Daddy. I'm coming through the front door. Too tall, too tanned, and too good-looking, Daddy. And another thing, Tony, I told you the last time I was here, they had that bogus guy coming out here stealing my name, I believe his name's Ric Flair. I told the people out there that I was the only Nature Boy, right or wrong. Now, it's apparent to the fact that Ric Flair couldn't get the job done, and that's why Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, took the belt away from him. Call it a fluke, call it what you want to, but the man's got the belt. When the checks are signed, he's the one that gets the heap of load. You know what I'm talking about? And that's what I'm here for, Daddy. And I brought the cute guy from Australia here, and we're here to get the business done, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right, so, but they kept on bringing him back because he was so talented, especially his run in Memphis. Was fantastic. The Crockett stuff, that the Nature Boy versus Nature Boy thing seemed to be one of the things that they wanted to focus on, but it didn't last very long because Buddy wasn't no-showed. He left. I don't know what happened with Buddy there.
It now belongs to Nature Boy Buddy Landel, the number one man in this man's stable, James J. Dillon, who had quite an impressive victory tonight himself.
John, this is the greatest night in my wrestling career, an illustrious wrestling career spanning some 15 years. And I think wrestling history will show that the gathering at Starrcade 85 will be the greatest single event ever in wrestling history. And let's face it, Jim Crockett Promotions is professional wrestling everywhere in the world. And this event tonight, not enough can be said about it. I came here tonight really expecting that Bart could take out Bass, but I was prepared for the worst. And I took a physical beating at the hands of Bass that I hope I never have to take again. But I summed up a lot of intestinal fortitude that even I know didn't exist, gave Bass the beating of his life before it was over, and now I'm the uncrowned champion of the bull rope match. And as if that wasn't enough to call it a successful night, Nature Boy Buddy Landel went out, proved that all the experts were wrong that said he was not championship caliber material. They said I was wrong because I was so high on the man, and now he is the new national heavyweight champion, a title he's going to hold for a long time to come, the last stepping stone to the world's heavyweight championship. Congratulations, Nature Boy.
Thank you. My congratulations to you, too, Nature Boy.
Johnny Weaver, you know as well as I do and everybody else out there, J.J. Dillon turned my whole career around. Now, the 9 months that I've been here, the Nature Boy's been playing possum. I'm going to tell you, you want to be a champion, you got to live like a champion. Now, I've watched Tully Blanchard, and I've watched Ric Flair. I've watched Arn and Ole Anderson, and I've modeled my life after them. I am a champion. I am the national heavyweight champion. Now, all these guys can come out here, and they can run off the mouth about this and that. But the bottom line is, baby, is this. When I go to bed and wake up every morning, I can look at myself in the mirror and say, Nature Boy Buddy Landel, you are the world's national heavyweight champion. And I'll take on anybody at any time. In the famous words of Ric Flair, I said it.
And as late as like 1995, he was on a show that was co-promoted by the WWF and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he wrestled Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship and had a fucking fantastic match with him.
Really?
So it's like, and Buddy to me seemed to be his own worst enemy, unfortunately. But I think initially, when you talk about Buddy Landel, I think the whole Nature Boy thing kind of hurt him.
Well, I think if he had used it the right way and obviously the looks and everything else, and then transitioned, to something else, that would have been more effective. Because I think what happens is you get stuck in that route of, well, okay, well, what are you going to do? Where do you go from here? That's why I always say wrestling, like certain promotions have like one-trick pony type things. Yeah. It's like, okay, so after that, what do they do? A wrestler for any kind of longevity has to have more than one thing to offer. On top of that, what if Ric Flair, I don't want to say what they're responsive to it, but and you could have just ignored him. I don't know. I just look back and go that there are times
because that gimmick, what's the difference between Buddy Landel and Tully Blanchard? There's not necessarily a big difference there. I mean, I think just even the name itself kind of held him back. I mean,
right.
He was essentially another I wouldn't say rip off or carbon copy of Ric Flair, but a lot of people were doing that gimmick. It would be Tully Blanchard. We got Terry Taylor later on doing a similar gimmick, and they didn't use the name Nature Boy. Now, if like Tully Blanchard started using the name Nature Boy and dyed his hair bleached blonde, I don't think he would have got over to the degree that he did. Buddy was trained by Boris Malenko, in Florida and what have you. He started his career in 1979 for Bill Watts Mid-South Wrestling. Went to the NWA in 1985, and he joined J.J. Dillon. Okay, this is pre-Flair.
This is the man that molds champions, manager James J. Dillon, and with you, Nature Boy Buddy Landel.
Before you ask why he has his back turned to the camera, I've had a real problem the last couple weeks, especially with the video that everyone saw last week. I received several letters from all over the country where several fathers were a little bit upset because their daughters were sitting there watching the television screen. Nature Boy Buddy Landel came out there as only he can look, and there were young girls fainting in living rooms all across this country. So I want to give the fathers that are sitting home watching time to send their daughter out to the kitchen to get some Kool-Aid or whatever it is, because I'm going to have the Nature Boy turn around now, and I think I've given ample warning. Nature Boy, I think there's a few wives sitting at home that are passing out too. I think we got some jealous husbands on our hands.
Tony, it wasn't long ago I was sitting in my living room. I didn't have a clue where the Nature Boy Buddy Landel's career was going. And then I got a phone call one day, and it was this man right here, James J. Dillon. And he wanted to turn the Nature Boy's career around because he saw a diamond in the rough. Now, I made the move. JJ said, do you want to make the move? Do you want to come to the major leagues? Do you want to be NWA Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions? Do you want to be on the Superstation? And I made the move, brother, and I'm here. And like I said in my video, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, all of you, look out, move over, because the Nature Boy Buddy Landel is here to stay, brother. Tony, Ric Flair took somebody's place a long time ago, and the history books and time says that the Nature Boy Buddy Landel is here to take Ric Flair's place. Flair, you're an old man, you're a great champion, I'm not taking nothing away from you, brother, but you're no Buddy Landel. And you always want to make it convenient upon yourself to be someplace else when I'm standing out here right on TV. Well, that's good and fine, because when I waste everybody that comes in my path, the Magnum TAs and all this other stuff, there's nowhere else you're going to be able to hide, brother. So Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Manny Fernandez, Dick Slater, with James J. Dillon in my corner, there's no way that I can lose. That's right, I said it.
And we'll be back with more. You come back also.
And, rumor would have it that he was set to win the NWA World title from Ric Flair in 1985. But he had issues with Crockett, and that didn't end up happening. I don't know how true that is. He did win the NWA National Champion from Terry Taylor in 1985 at Starrcade.
Oh, wow.
But he had a really good run in Tennessee. When he teamed up with Bill Dundee, that shit was fucking fantastic. So it's really good stuff. So, but yeah, I think overall when it comes to Buddy, now we're using Buddy Landel here against Crockett 1984. I think he is a fantastic wrestler, great talker. Bell to bell, solid. He's a good guy to have on your card. Again, I want guys that are able to generate heat, and I want guys that can bring it in the ring. So that's one of the reasons why we're using Buddy here, and we're putting him up in Crockett, to see how he does. I mean, I know they had he drew money with Flair too when they wrestled. He broke a record that Elvis previously had in terms of attendance at the Dorton Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina, in July 1985. So he was definitely a draw, and I think people were interested in the Nature Boy versus Nature Boy thing, but again, I don't think that was going to work out long term in terms of Landel. But it's a good worker. I mean, he did pass away in 2015 from the result of a car crash. So he was in a car crash. He was released from the hospital, and then he just he died overnight. From some of the effect of the car crash. So and it's sad to see. Again, as we go through, we'll see more and more of our childhood heroes and our childhood favorites kind of go away, and that's sad.
Not that I need any introduction, because all you pukes out there know that the Nature Boy Buddy Landel, you've seen him in all the other major wrestling organizations. The reason why I've not stayed there is because I don't kiss nobody's can. I don't do promoters favors. They tell me in Smoky Mountain Wrestling I can be myself. Nature Boy can pull out eyeballs, slap hair lips on people, and see them walking across the street, and then have somebody else ask them, what happened here? They go, well, money went them to hell went on me, and then when the with of my wife, I got to walk away like this. Don't go with Smoky Mountain Wrestling, because they don't do nobody no favors. That's right. The guys that you've seen here, like Robert Gibson, Jimmy Cornette, Stan Lane, Tim Horner, guys like that, they're tough guys. That's the reason why they're not no place else. It's because when the promoters, I tell you what they need to do, they need to put stop signs on their back behinds. That way when they stop going around the corner, these other guys don't break their nose. I got my nose broke, all right, in fist fights. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't do no favors for nobody, and I'm here for one reason, because I'm a god around here. I don't care if it's Asheville, North Carolina, Knoxville, Tennessee, Morristown, Asheville, North Carolina, Greenville. I don't care where it's at. I'm the Nature Boy Buddy Landel, and I got a bad attitude, and I got a big ego, and if I have to go in the ring and slap the figure 4 on everybody in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, that's just exactly what I'm going to do. I'm the Nature Boy. Smoky Mountain Wrestling's where it's at.
Next up, we're going to talk about Bad News Allen, or Bad News Brown.
That's right.
Well, Bad News Allen, the man that you were calling a chicken, just chased you out of the ring.
What do you mean, chase me out of the ring?
Owen Hart
Don't start up on me, Jim. Don't start up on me. You know I don't like you in the first place. I don't like these clothes that you wear, reject from the Salvation Army. So I suggest that you get out the ring. I know you're a racist, but don't become a moron either. I don't even want to talk to you. Get out the ring.
Well, I'm not that crazy about talking to you. Ed Whalen, he doesn't want to talk.
He doesn't. No, don't be too rough on him. Don't be too rough on him.
I don't like those clothes he wears. The Salvation Army don't even want them. But let me tell you people something. The only reason I left here is because I had a very important telephone call. Somebody told me that I was getting a call from overseas. But let me say one thing to you, Owen Hart. You made a very big mistake. You made a very big mistake. You came out here and put your nose where it didn't belong. Now, I was teaching Hop Singh a little lesson that he should not be in the ring. He should be down there cooking Chinese food. But then you come and you stuck your nose in my affairs, Owen Hart. So I'm going to have to teach you once and for all, you shouldn't have never made me wait. You shouldn't have never made me wait. You better go call up your brother Brett and Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy and ask them what it's like to be in the ring with the Ultimate Warrior when they have to look into my black eyes and they see what real fear is all about. They will tell you what it's like to be in the ring with the Ultimate Warrior, the man who was exiled, who had to suck on the beetle nut, and who was tied to the tree of woe, but who's back. You better ask your father what it's like to be in the ring with the Ultimate Warrior. Because when I first came here, I beat him like the dirty dog that he is. I don't have to take this abuse.
All right. He's got his stand up.
Alan Coage. Bad News Allen. Now, when we look at Bad News Allen, and we look at him in retrospect, I mean, he was essentially a judo master, right? Very similar to Ronda Rousey up today. And I'm wondering to myself, if mixed martial arts, MMA, UFC, whatever you want to call it, was around when he started, I wonder if he would have made the transition to mixed martial arts instead of becoming a professional wrestler.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Because he was a legitimate tough guy. You know, he was on the United States judo team, but I guess something happened with the 76 Olympics. But he did end up winning a bronze medal in the Olympics, which is something I felt that WWE kind of dropped the ball. I mean, they brought him in as the angry black guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is fine. You know, he was a bronze medalist in 1976 in Montreal, won gold the Pan American Games in 67 and 75. And I'm surprised that Vince, you know, you have this Olympian. I'm surprised they didn't put a gimmick on him, much like they did with Ken Patera as the babyface. You know, Vince loves that shit, but instead they made him, the angry black dude. Again, he's a pretty good worker. I mean, a little bit different, but you know, his ability to talk is severely underrated. He cut some hell of a promo. You know, he spent a lot of time in Stu Hart and Stampede Wrestling. You know, he spent tons of he was in the original ladder match. He was in the first ever ladder match with Bret Hart, yeah. And that was in Stampede.
Huh.
You know, he spent time in the WWF in 78 and 79. You know, he spent a lot of time in New Japan, basically from 77 to 93, minus that WWF run that he had. So, he was a big star, legitimate tough guy. One of the only guys to step to fucking Andre the Giant because he gave no shits.
Can we cut this part out right here? Bad news, Brown. Let's talk about it. You come out here starting stuff already.
Hey, look, man, let me tell you something.
Why don't you have a seat first,
I drove down here from Harlem to this cesspool you call L.A.
Wait.
This place reminds me of granola.
You drove from Harlem?
That's
you
right.
Worse than I am.
That's right. I drove from Harlem. You know, this place reminds me of granola. It's full of fruits, nuts, and flakes. And then I go back there, and what happened? What is this? You call this food?
What?
Man, that ain't food.
That's vegetables, man.
Man, that ain't food. That's rabbit stuff.
For you, man.
I don't want to hear nothing. Let me tell you something. I was looking for some chitlins, some hog maws, some pig's feet, black-eyed peas, rice, you know what I mean? Soul food, but you seem to have forgotten. You out here with all these
let me explain something to you, man.
Oh, man, get out of here.
It's not that I forgot.
And another thing, I saw that thing.
Could I speak?
No, you can't speak. I saw that thing. Where'd you get that clip from? Jack Tunney sent it to you, didn't he?
What? Well,
the president of the WWF. This man has done everything under the sun since I came to the World Wrestling Federation to embarrass me. Now he sends you that bogus clip. He didn't show you exactly what happened, did he? When I left the ring, I had to go on a little errand because I was double parked, you understand? I was double parked. That's right. They told me, they said, hey, bad news. You may get a ticket. Go move your car. Then they didn't show you what happened when I came back, did they?
Have a seat, man. Sit down.
I don't know if I want to sit down,
They got chairs in Harlem, my brother?
Of course they got chairs.
I'm a comedian, man. I don't mean no harm.
Of course they got chairs in Harlem.
I don't mean
try to be no wise
man.
guy.
Okay, have a seat.
After I get done with Snake, you be next.
Oh.
You better be cool.
Okay.
Oh, shut up, you bare-belly sharecropper. Get on my nerves. Man, none of them can last in Harlem 2 seconds.
Well.
What? Say something. You said you wanted to say something. Say something.
First, I was going to say, I don't think you should eat chitlins that someone else cleans. But I think you should.
Hey, you trying to be smart or something?
No, it's just.
Don't start on me.
Don't ever let nobody.
You know, I look at you, I like to put a cloth on that picnic table head of yours.
Hey.
You know? And you don't get me mad. I'm telling you now because anything can happen. You know?
I invite you here and try to be nice to you.
I don't care if you invite. Then you insult me by bringing me here and don't feed me, right? Give me some old rabbit food. What kind of nonsense is that?
I'll take you to eat later, man.
No, man, I don't want to hang. Hey, I want to drive back to Harlem.
I don't mess with your hair. Why you messing with mine? I don't understand.
They think it's funny, right? They think it's funny, but they won't think it's funny if I pick you up and slam you on that floor, right?
No, I don't
Drop
think
an elbow on you, right?
I don't think we should do
No,
that.
all right then.
I have to work tomorrow.
Let's get one thing straight.
But they probably
About
thinking
this
they
business
could turn
with
your head
snakes.
upside down.
I don't want to hear nothing. Let's get one thing straight.
Wait, I just saying what I thought they might be thinking. But I'm sorry, go on and talk. I won't interview you, I just listen.
That's it, you just listen. Let me handle
gas
it.
there for a minute.
You know, this now here, I was having a birthday celebration.
That's what you did. Wait, stop. Didn't you have gas for me? Okay, I'm sorry.
I was getting hot, you know.
I'm sorry.
I'm getting hotter.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Go on and talk. What were you saying? You said something. I couldn't understand what you saying. You said something.
I'd like you to knock those toad eyes out of you.
Oh, man, that's cool. That's cool. You have beautiful eyes yourself.
Don't worry about it. Hey, see? That's your problem. You've been out here too long. You're getting funny, right?
I'm sorry. I'm
You're
sorry.
getting funny.
I'm sorry.
You got the ways of the streets,
all
brother.
the funny people I know wear shirts like that. But...
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? I mean, those kind of people don't last in Harlem. Let me tell you that.
I'm just saying, last time I saw a shirt like that, I don't want to hear nothing. Walking around like
yeah,
that.
right. And you was holding his hands, wasn't you?
That's cool. Yeah. Cool. Okay, go on.
Let me tell you something about this snake. Now, this situation started. I was having myself a birthday celebration. I got me the first gift that anybody ever gave me, and then this idiot puts a rubber snake in there. And
you're afraid of snakes. You're from Harlem, but you're afraid of snakes.
Ain't afraid of nothing. I'm not afraid of no snake. I'm not afraid of our city or Hawk. What are you looking for?
Are you afraid of snakes, man? Be honest.
What is that? An empty bag?
What? Tell me whether you're afraid of snakes or not.
Hey, I'm not afraid of nothing, all right? Now, don't start on me.
Wait, but if it
don't start on me. Let me tell you about Jake, right?
If there was a snake in there, it would probably be a problem, huh?
It wouldn't be no problem. It would be your problem. Because I'd get up, and what I would do to you, your mother would be very unhappy. What you doing?
Let's just see what's in here. You ain't afraid of nothing.
That's right. I ain't afraid of nothing. You ain't got nothing in there. You ain't got nothing in there. Hey, You better be sorry. You better be sorry. Get out of here.
We'll be right back.
I was a fan of his. I actually liked his kind of, you know, I know he was the angry black man, but I liked how he put it together. I liked how he talked. I really think that he was or underutilized, say that.
Big time. Big time.
You know, and, you know, whatever. You know, a lot of things you go back and you go, oh, they could have done this, could have done that. But I do think that, you know, I think if there was a UFC, he would have been in it. He would have been in that ballpark for sure.
Like, you could make an argument. I've made this argument in the past that Bad News Brown could have been the first black WWF champion. They could have totally if they wanted to keep Randy Savage babyface for whatever reason, they could have transitioned the belt from Randy to Bad News Brown to Hogan. Bad News Brown did spend some time feuding with Randy Savage over the world title. You know, he did the interview on the Brother Love show with Jack Tunney where he accused Jack Tunney of taking sexual favors from Miss Elizabeth.
Sit back, McMahon. No, sit back and relax. You can't relax when this guy's around. He irritates me. Oh, look at that. He's an athlete. Surprised he made it up in that 1.5-foot leap there.
My guest this week, WWF President Jack Tunney. Now, President Tunney, I want to know from you.
Wonder who's got the biggest silver tongue out there now.
He's come out here on the Brother Love show, and people have come out here and chased me up. Time again, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, they have come out and chased Brother Love up. Now, as president of the World Wrestling Federation, I want to know what you are going to do about it. absolutely nothing.
What an insensitive man that Tunney is.
Oh,
my goodness, I love it.
Well, that is all that you have done since you have been president of the World Wrestling Federation. Absolutely nothing.
I'll concur with that. Wait a minute, he made you guest referee at SummerSlam.
Here's a man who does
Wait a minute.
something. He doesn't just do nothing. He does something. Isn't that right, bad news? So I finally caught up with you, Mr. President of the WWF. For the past 5 months, I've been sending letters to your office. I've been calling you on the telephone. I've been sending messages to your country club, private I may add, and I have not got no response. So here I am to ask you in front of all these beer belly sharecroppers and all the millions of spineless cockroaches who will be watching this throughout the world. I want to know one thing and one thing. Why am I not the #1 contender in the WWF? I've defeated everybody that they put in front of me. I won the Battle Royal in the WrestleMania. I want to know why. Why are you protecting that so-called spineless champion, Macho Man Savage?
Got a point.
That's wrong. I'm not protecting anyone. That's wrong, huh? Well, ever since Macho Man Savage, the so-called world champ, has become the world champ, I notice, I understand that you have a big 35-room mansion in Beverly Hills. You have a big 200-foot yacht down in Florida, and you ride around in a brand new Rolls-Royce limousine. Now, I want to know, is he giving you a percentage of his contract? Is there some kind of contract between you going,
What
you and him?
accusation?
I want
Hey,
to know
Tunney used to
right
drive
now.
the Chevy Chevette. He's got a point. He has no point at all, obviously.
Well, then you're going to tell me that there's no contract between you and Macho Man Savage? No.
Tunney's been above reproach for years, and you know that. And why did you
Brother,
question
let me
him
tell
on
you
making
something.
me a ref?
Sometimes my head is a little thick, and it finally dawned on me what's going on. It has nothing to do with Randy Macho Man Savage. It has nothing to do with him whatsoever. I finally figured out what it's all about. It's that Elizabeth, isn't it? It's that Elizabeth. She's doing favors for you, huh?
Oh, my goodness.
Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to speak to me in that fashion? Let me tell you something.
What is he doing? Can you believe
Let me
this?
tell you something, you
He's making a
spineless,
point.
two-legged rat. Nobody. I don't care if you are the president of the WWF. I don't care if you're the president of the Teamsters Union. I couldn't care if you're the president of the United States or the Queen of England. Nobody, but nobody puts their hands on bad news. And if you do it again, I'll beat all the ugliness off you.
That man's going to pay for that.
WWF president. I guess that that's what you get for accepting favors from Elizabeth.
I'm sure something will be done about this incident. Who's going to do it? Tunney? Probably.
Which is really edgy shit for like late 88, early 89.
Yeah.
You know? And then, as you know, in the middle of that feud, so there's still feuding when Savage turns heel. So, like, Savage did not want to defend the honor of Miss Elizabeth, so he was replaced by Hogan. So Hogan would beat up Bad News Brown.
Oh.
He did that fucking weird match at WrestleMania 6 when Roddy Piper painted himself half black.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and then he had the Michael Jackson glove, and it was weird. I don't know what Piper was trying to do. I don't know if he was trying to get heat. I question everything about that match and that angle. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do, and it's not like, you know, Bad News Brown wasn't a guy that often jobbed in matches. And Piper, after 1984, he rarely jobbed. So what you got is like double DQs, double countouts, whatever.
Right.
And that shit. Essentially these guys would not lose to each other, so their feud was cut short. And then he went on to work with Jake the Snake Roberts. And again, another really kind of strange thing is like, Bad News Brown, like he was afraid of snakes. Like apparently all heels that wrestled Jake and Roberts became deathly afraid of snakes all of a sudden. So to combat the snakes, Bad News Brown gets sewer rats that were going to eat the snake.
Nah, you too small. Back to the source with you. Let me tell you one thing, Jake the Snake Roberts. The last time I met you at Madison Square Garden, I made you a promise. And when Bad News makes a promise, he always keeps it. Well, now, June 30th at Nassau Coliseum, that promise you're going to see in live and living color. I got here 200 pounds of big, nasty mutant rats that I'm going to bring to my corner, and I'm going to have it there because I know that you're going to bring that nasty snake with you in your corner. And I guarantee you one thing. When I go upside your marshmallow head with the ghetto blaster, I'm going to take these greedy, nasty suckers, and I'm going to let them loose, and they're going to eat that Damien. And then who knows what's going to happen after they get done with Damien.
And I'm like, Like, I've seen sewer rats. I live not too far away from New York City. And I don't think those rats, no matter how big or mean they seem to be, are eating a python. That seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, ooh. So basically, Bad News Brown left after SummerSlam 1990, claiming Vince McMahon failed to live up to his promise to make him the company's first black champion.
Oh.
So there you go. So, he ended up retiring in 1999 due to a knee injury. He passed away in 2007 at age 63. So, he's legitimately he's not from Harlem. He was from Queens. Oh, he was born in Harlem. He was raised in Queens. But, a great athlete all around and a legitimate, judo player. Yeah, but I think he would definitely have made the transition to MMA, under the right circumstances, if that was around at the time.
Right. Well, wasn't Jim Cotta, or what was the Bloodsport movie?
Oh, yeah, the Kumite.
Kumite.
Well, he wrestled in the UFWI, which was a shoe promotion in Japan. And that started in 1991, but I'm pretty sure those were worked. So it was a shoot promotion, they were doing UFC type stuff, but it was worked instead.
Oh.
Which is weird to me, but whatever. But yeah, in terms of what we're doing here in the 84 project, we have Bad News Allen on the West Coast and Los Angeles in the 80s. So I think people would either be mortally afraid of Bad News Allen, or they would get behind him in terms of that kind of outlaw. The Raiders are in LA at this time, right? So that's what I'm thinking with him. So he could either be a nasty heel or he can be an anti-hero babyface.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, imagine matches with him with Dr. D. David Schultz would be kind of ridiculous.
Oh.
All right, so that is our wrestler spotlight. I keep on calling it superstar spotlight. It's wrestler spotlight. Next up, I want to talk briefly about WWF in 1984. Now, you say, hey, this is NWA 1984. Well, we need to know and have an understanding of what the competition is doing during this time frame. So, last episode we did talk about Jim Crockett and what they were doing in 1984. Now we want to talk about what the WWF is doing in 1984. And it's not a whole lot. Again, they're coming off the Hogan title win now. That Hogan title win was July of 84. Bob Backlund had recently dropped the belt to the Iron Sheik in December of 83. They already had made some overtures to go national in 83 to start running in Ohio, which was part of Georgia Championship Wrestling's territory, which caused a lot of different fucking problems for a lot of different people. Funny how Ohio was the first battleground in the promotional war here. I find that interesting to me. They started making shots into Los Angeles also in '83. Again, don't forget that they had All American Wrestling, which at first, right, they had bought it. They had taken the time slot from Joe Blanchard in Southwest Wrestling, right? And at first, if you watch some of the shows for All American, Vince is featuring matches from other promotions.
Yeah, boy.
Which seems kind of crazy to me. Like, there's a Hulk Hogan match on one of those early shows from the AWA. The Von Erichs are on that show. It's like they would always have feature matches for what's going on around the rest of the wrestling world. And essentially, the way that Vince had these promoters agree to send him matches was like saying, "Hey, listen, I have this nationwide TV. I'm not going to be a jerk, and I'm not going to let you guys not be able to showcase your guys. So, hey, send me a couple of tapes of some of your wrestlers, and I'll play them, and we'll put them over on a national stage."
Yeah.
Well, essentially what he did was he picked wrestlers that he was going to steal. So he featured like Hulk Hogan and like Piper and anyway, I forget who else he featured. Von Erichs, I think he wanted those guys. But it's like, JYD. And I was like, oh, those are guys that would be coming like in 84 and 85. So I think he was kind of just priming his audience to see these guys come in.
Sure.
Which is kind of a dick move on his part, but...
not kind.
Well, it is a dick move on his part, but that's... And in terms of dick moves from Vince McMahon, especially in the 80s, that's pretty low on the list. Yeah. He did eventually pick up Wrestling at the Chase, which is, again, is a whole other weird thing. It's funny to me that Vince is going national, and he started putting his, championship wrestling in his show, which was the A show. This is prior to Superstars. In the syndication and markets. But there's certain markets where he kept the name of the show. So he had a special show for St. Louis, essentially the home base of the NWA. They kept they had Wrestling at the Chase, and Vince was able to steal that and have his own show called Wrestling at the Chase Hotel. This is before he put their syndicate his regular syndicated show in there, and he did that in Toronto because he had Maple Leaf Wrestling. And then when he went and he ended up buying Georgia Championship Wrestling, he had WWF's World Championship Wrestling, same, with the set and everything.
Right.
And I wonder why those particular towns, he didn't give them his regular show. Like, he had special shows for them. And I wonder if it was like, hey, the audience are not going to like this fucking show. You have to give them their own, because they're used to their own weekly, their own promotions.
Right.
That they got weekly. And he would feature guys. It's funny to me. A lot of people say that, oh, when Vince was on TBS, they didn't like the show. But if you watch his show, it's guys that spent tons of time on TBS.
Yeah.
So like we saw like John Studd. John Studd had a run on TBS. You saw a lot of guys that had runs on TBS. He had Paul Orndorff. He had a run on TBS. So these guys are not like these guys are not known. And it wasn't like the matches from that show, from World Championship Wrestling. It wasn't like they were giving them superstar versus superstar matches. They were essentially just job squash matches for the most part. Really good interviews. But, it's Gordon Soley, talking to Stan Hansen. It's Gordon Soley talking to Ole Anderson, and they're having a couple squash matches, and they're talking about what's going to happen at the Omni next week. So I'm always curious about why exactly did the WWF show fail, because it wasn't because the talent was unknown. It wasn't necessarily the wrestling style. So I'm curious. And I think, in my mind, it has to do more with Gordon Soley not being on that show.
Wrestling champion, the man who won the title right here in Atlanta, Georgia, Dusty Rhodes. Welcome back, Dusty.
God, hold this just a minute. You want a little bit go? I got something to say. Let me have this thing. I've been all over the country, and I've been missing 17, because Dusty Rhodes is the scene on 17. Everybody be talking jive when I was gone. They be saying that they doing that. Do you know what fashionable means? Do you know what fashionable means? Fashionable means that's somebody that starts a trend. Well, I was bad before it was fashionable. I was the American dream before it was fashionable. I was the greatest lover in the world before it was fashionable. And I am the greatest wrestler in the world now because it's fashionable. Now, the World's Heavyweight title belongs to the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. They say, Blue Eyed Soul, where did you get it from? You got to be born with it, Jack. You just can't put on a pair of shoes and say you got soul. I'm going to go on record right now telling everybody, from Jimmy Snuka to Tommy Rich, all the way down to Nature Boy Ric Flair. If he wants some of me, anywhere, anytime, all they got to do is call my Aunt Nanny. She stay right here in Atlanta, because I'm over there eating some cornbread, getting down with my main squeeze, Jackie. And I'll be ready. I'll be ready for Freddie. Be ready for action. Let me tell you something too, Holly Race. If you want it one more time, I don't want to go to St. Louis. I don't want to go to Chicago. I don't want to go to Philadelphia. I don't want to go to Louisiana. I don't want to go to Texas. I want to whip your butt right here in Georgia one more time. You understand? That's all the Dream got to say right now. I'm going to be back in a minute with a big victory, Jack.
There you have it, the comments from the World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, I can see that.
If they would have got Gordon Soley, I don't think their ratings would have dipped. You know, their ratings dipped so bad that not only did they put a rival Georgia Championship Wrestling show with Ole Anderson, they put the Mid-South show on TBS too. They're like, yeah, we don't care. Like the people sent them letters and they were mad. Like, where's my Gordon Soley wrestling? So it had to be Gordon Soley, not necessarily the way they booked it, not the way it looked, not the matches they saw on TV, and not the wrestlers, because those wrestlers were known. So I think it had more to do with Gordon Soley, and I wonder if the WWF had acquired Gordon Soley, you know, would Crockett be able to get that time slot with Crockett, be able to go national when, you know, WCW being in existence, if Vince was able to, you know, sign one announcer. Did he mean that much? And maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I think he did, so in terms of 1984, what we see right off the bat here is, you know, they're playing a lot of Hogan's win at Madison Square Garden. So they're playing that over and over and over again a lot. Like, they're really pushing that. But essentially what Hogan's doing in 1984 isn't a lot. A lot of people say that he wasn't over in 1984, but I've seen the reactions he was getting. The reactions seemed pretty good. Again, they didn't tape all the house shows, so I don't know what he's doing in some of the other areas, but the shows that we do see him on, he's getting a pretty decent reaction. It wasn't like, you know, you hear a pin drop, but essentially he's not really doing a whole lot. He's having matches with, like, Mad Superstar. He's having matches with Tiger Chung Lee. He had a match with George Animal Steel. He's having some matches with Big John Studd, but nothing of any significance. No really blood feuds here. He's just, you know, he's just the champ defending the title on whoever the next challenger is. The big feud that we see in the first part of 1984 is the Iron Sheik versus Sergeant Slaughter. They had turned the Iron Sheik. They turned him twice, actually, which is, I'd never seen that before. They turned them on TV, and then they turned them on the Garden. So they did this angle where, you know, Slaughter wins his match, and Iron Sheik is coming out because he has the very next match.
Yeah.
And then Iron Sheik does the whole bully, like, you try to go around him and he won't let you go around him type shit. So they do that. And then they end up going to the MSG show. And by the way, Slaughter's feuding with Ivan Putski during this time. So they do that little thing with the Sheik on TV, and then they do a 6-man, which I believe it was, I want to say it was Slaughter and the Samoans taking on Ivan Putski and maybe Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. But at a certain point, Slaughter gets mad. He beats up his partners, and then he gets the endorsement from Ivan Putski saying, "Oh, this guy's a good guy." And Slaughter and Iron Sheik are off and feuding, and that's the biggest thing that's going on in the first half of 1984. I'm willing to go out on a limb here and say that in terms of the hierarchy of baby faces in the WWF in the first part of 1984, I think it's Slaughter number 1, Hogan number 2, and Andre number 3 at that point. Now, that all changes relatively quickly, but Slaughter and the Iron Sheik are having this blood feud. In addition, you start seeing the talent raids go on. So you start seeing an influx of new talent coming in right off the bat. So, like, right off the bat, in the first quarter of 1984, you see Greg Valentine. Now, Greg Valentine just recently lost the NWA United States Championship to Dick Slater. And he's on both shows, by the way, because I don't know if the tapes were delayed or whatever. But he's on both shows. And they debut him by beating Mac Rivera on television. Now, Mac Rivera, prior to this, for a couple weeks, is on a winning streak. And it looks like they're going to push him, and it looks like they're going to do something with him.
Yeah.
And then Valentine comes in and fucking squashes him. And then he puts him in the figure 4 and breaks his leg.
Oh, jeez.
Right off the bat, they make Greg Valentine look like a fucking monster. Which is interesting to me because they've seen Greg Valentine before. He had feud with Bob Backlund a few years prior, so he's not necessarily a new wrestler that they've never seen before. Obviously, Piper comes in right off the bat. Dr. D. David Schultz comes in right off the bat. Paul Orndorff comes in right off the bat. So you start seeing the genesis and the core of that that rock and wrestling connection coming in the first part of '84. Now Piper doesn't wrestle right away. Apparently he has an injury from that chain match at Starrcade. That's what they claim. I don't know. So he's essentially a manager. So he's managing Dr. D. He's managing Paul Orndorff right off the bat. That does change though pretty quickly when he starts feuding with Jimmy Snuka in the later part of '84.
Yes.
And that's where you get the whole
coconuts.
The coconut smash over Snuka's head and
Simple. All of a sudden, we got a bunch of people writing in. This guy here comes, I don't know, maybe he comes sniveling to the people, comes and crying, Roddy Piper didn't give me a chance to say nothing on the pin. Roddy Piper didn't give me a chance to do nothing. You want a chance? Everybody wants to be like Roddy Piper. You want a chance? You want a chance to say something, brother? I'll tell you what, man. Here you go. Take the little microphone. There you go. There you go. Put it in the little greasy pod. You want to do something? Then you go ahead. You say exactly what you want to say to these people. You can do. Just a second. I want you to wait a second. I want to make you feel at home. Before we start, you want to be the big shot. You want to do all the talking. You want to really think. All these people. Got yourself a pineapple. Want you to feel at home. Want you to feel like the Fiji Islands. Kind of like the women, Kind of long, crusty hair on top, round on the bottom. Got your pineapple. You want to be a happy person? What do you want, huh? What do you want? You want bananas? You want to talk? Go ahead and talk, huh? Go ahead and talk. Wait a second. Wait. You want bananas? You want bananas? We got bananas. Here we go. You want bananas? Have yourself a banana. Huh? This is what you want. You want to talk? You ain't saying nothing. What's wrong, huh? You want to come up here like a big shot? What do you want? You want coconut. Here I went. I got the coconut. Just like, there you go. Your coconut. Your coconut. More coconut. You want to be a big shot. You want to go, wait a second. Bananas and coconuts. You want to be a big shot. You know what? The only thing I didn't get a tree for you to climb up and down like a monkey, like you want to do. You want to be a big shot? I'll get you a tree next time. You want a banana? Have a banana. What do you want, man? Am I making fun of you? Oh, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Come on, big man. Come on and get up. Get up, you piece of junk. Get up. Come on. Come on, boy. Get up. Come on, boy. Get up, huh? Take your leg back. Come on. Get up. Oh, come on, man. Get up. Whoa, you ain't nothing, huh? Come on. Hey, you want to be big time? Everybody wants to be. Come on. Come on, boy. Everybody wants to be big time. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. You want to be big time? Huh? Hey, you want to be big time? Come on. You want to be big time? Whoa. You ain't nothing but garbage, man. Get on your right bucket! All right, get
all those great promos. But then Snuka has his share of issues, as we all know. And he doesn't really wrestle with Piper a whole lot. So it ends up being a lot of Piper versus Steve Aoki matches.
Oh.
Who wants to see that?
No one wants to see Steve Aoki.
So I guess they try to trick people and say, oh, he's Jimmy Snuka's cousin. They're trying to do kinds of weird shit. But people really kind of think right off the bat that it's Piper and Hogan right off the bat. That doesn't happen for 13, 14 months. And they start having interactions against each other. So it's like, ooh. So, that's interesting to see in 84. And then we see like a couple other angles, like the big return of Eddie Gilbert. Eddie Gilbert apparently was in a car accident, and his return was a pretty big deal in the first quarter of 1984. So that's one of the things they have going. Obviously, you have Tito and Don Morocco doing their thing. They have Backlund around for a while, but then he eventually leaves. Apparently, they wanted to turn him heel, and he just refused. He seemed to go in that post-WWF Championship depression that not only he had, but superstar Billy Graham had. So, not a whole lot of things for Bob Backlund to do throughout the rest of the 80s until he comes back and eventually turns heel on Bret Hart. But he's not. He goes to the AWA and they do some Pro Wrestling USA stuff. Surprised he didn't go to Crockett though, because I would have put him against Flair and have him job out to Flair. Give Flair a rub on that. But he didn't go to Crockett, so he went to the AWA and Pro Wrestling USA and some other stuff. And it's funny because he went to Pro Wrestling USA, he still claimed that he was the world champion. He's like, I'm the real world champion. Fuck Hulk Hogan. Fuck that guy.
It's funny. I always think about too is like how many like behind the scenes person like now legit could have brought him in, done this, but like what? Hate that guy. Screw him.
Yeah.
Just okay.
Yeah. That probably happened more often than not.
Yeah.
Either a guy doesn't want to work with a certain promoter or a certain booker, and that's why Ricky Steamboat left the NWA the first time, because he didn't want to be number 2 babyface or number 3 babyface to Dusty Rhodes and maybe Magnum TA. So he saw the writing on the wall here. He's like, I'm going to go to WWF, which I don't know, because he was there. I mean, he had that feud with Tully in '84, and eventually he dropped. I don't know if he dropped the TV belt or he was TV champion going into that match at Starrcade, but he was there. Ricky Steamboat was at the first 2 Starrcades and the first WrestleMania, so no one else has done that, I don't think. So that's interesting to see. But so essentially, we talk about WWF 1984. Vince is very much expanding, so I'm curious to see why. I really want to see kind of the behind the scenes, like brick by brick. What markets does he go into? When does his show gets on, put on in Denver? When does his show gets put on in Chicago? I'm really curious about like when did that start in his expansion. WrestleMania 1 was closed circuited. They started experimenting with pay-per-view in 1985 with Wrestling Classic, and then you had some coverage in WrestleMania 2, and then eventually it would get full coverage down the road. But I'm more interested on the way he expanded and how to get into these buildings, how to get to these markets, not necessarily what we see on TV or the booking of the territory or the promotion at the time. And we all know the stories. We all see, what Hogan was doing leading up to WrestleMania and then after WrestleMania. We do see the Saturday Night's Main Events come into fruition and some of this other stuff. But I'm just curious about like, hey, we're trying to get into Glens Falls, New York. Those phone calls or those conversations with the, TV producers or the station managers around the country, trying to get his show put on. He had pretty decent, he had almost full coverage in terms of syndication of the United States. I don't remember, anyone I ever talked to that, doesn't live from my area, they all had WWF television. There wasn't, one area of the country. It wasn't North Dakota and they get WWF TV.
Right.
And they did eventually get it. So 1984, in a nutshell, for the WWF, it's interesting. I mean, there's not a whole lot that happens. There's not a whole lot that happens. There's, I think there's some quality matches if you watch the MSG house shows. Not a whole lot, but there's some pretty good matches there. Especially when we got some of this new talent coming in and kind of really readjusting everything. They did turn over a lot of their roster now. They do have Ivan Putski, right? But how long does Ivan Putski doesn't make it to WrestleMania 1? A lot of their core guys don't make it to WrestleMania 1. George Steele you see in WrestleMania 2, but you don't see him in WrestleMania 1. Morocco was in the territory. I don't even know why he wasn't in WrestleMania 1. He was there. Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas was in the WWF, when WrestleMania one happened, but they're not on the show. So I'm always weirded out by that. Instead, they had like, oh, we're gonna have Ricky Steamboat versus what was it, the Assassin? What was his name? The Masked Executioner? No, it was Tito. No, yeah. Tito had the Masked Executioner, and then Steamboat fought Matt Bourne for some reason. I don't know. It seemed like an out of shape Matt Bourne too, which is weird. Who went on to be, Big Josh and the original Doink.
Now Doink can be seen played by your high school janitor.
Yeah, everyone gets to play as Doink. So Matt, what are your thoughts on WWF 1984?
Well, again, I think the big thing is always a Slaughter angle, is that it's kind of swept under the rug. But I mean, I get the idea of Hogan going over to Sheik and doing that movement, but
they wouldn't do that shit today. They would have had him lose the Sheik 4 times before he won the belt.
Right.
If you're looking at modern booking, that's the way they do it. Because
you can't have him just win the belts. I mean,
imagine that. Imagine like in someone's third match in the promotion, they win the world championship. That shit would not happen.
I would say it only happened if it was some sort of ridiculously crazy, like.
But no one's at Hogan's popularity, outside the WWF. Like even if they brought in like Kenny Omega or Okada or anyone else, no one's at Hogan's level when he was in the AWA to make an instant impact and change their entire promotion. And I love Omega, but I don't think he can come in and right off the bat be world champion. That seems ridiculous.
I think what happens is sometimes it's a different time now, but they were, well, if we give them the result they want right off the bat, what are they going to have afterwards? They're going to have a great champion to root for.
Yeah.
But, what do we know?
Like, oh, they like the chase. And it's like, yeah, but when you beat that shit like a government mule, you beat that shit to death. It doesn't matter if you had him chase too long. So they did the right thing with Hogan giving him the belt right away. He was only there a couple of weeks, maybe a month. We saw some matches. He did a couple of jobber matches, and I think like a 6-man or something before he won the belt. But yeah, he comes in and wins the belt. No one necessarily does that. Bruno kind of did that too when Bruno won the belt too, coming back from Canada. I think at that time Vince assumed, and maybe rightly so, that everyone knew who Hulk Hogan was. He may have been the biggest star in wrestling even at that time, before he was even in the WWF. There's someone that he was there before. So they'd seen him as a heel.
Yeah.
Backlund gave him the endorsement. Like, this Hulk's a good dude. Andre gives him the endorsement. Rocky Johnson gives him the endorsement, and they're off and running. And they even get Mean Gene pretty early on too, because we see a lot of Mean Gene on commentary. Like we think of Mean Gene Oakland as the backstage interviewer. When he first got there, he did a lot of play-by-play fucking commentary or color commentary with Vince, like right off the bat. This is pre-Ventura. Not like Jesse's there doing commentary, so it's fucking Vince and a lot of Oakland and a lot of Patterson. A lot of Bruno.
Lord James Blears.
Fuck Lord James Blears. I'll make a shirt that says fuck Lord James Blears. It's funny because they talk about Vince, right, and his concepts and pandemonium and merchandising, but merchandising was already a big thing in Japan. Vince spent a lot of time in Japan and saw how New Japan was doing their merchandising and basically stole their concept. Because New Japan was big on branding, marketing, and merchandising. And merchandising wrestling at that time was like just non-existent. They had it wasn't just 8x10s. They had T-shirts and buttons and all this other shit in Japan already. Again, Japan tends to be 10 years ahead of us even back then, it seemed like. But Vince had the calendar. He had Victory magazine, which eventually became the WWF magazine. And then they got the action figures. And who didn't have fucking those LJN action figures? They were a fucking brick, though. You could fucking knock out your best friend, your little sister. Like how did you even play with those? Were dolls.
I'm looking at one right now on my shelf of Brutus Beefcake doing the old thumbs up thing, whatever.
Yeah.
And I had Greg Valentine, but one of my friends came over once and was like, oh, this is a figure 4, and broke his leg in half. And then I broke his leg in half. No!
Did you get those individually, or did you get the Dream Team tag set?
That was all enough individually. I had Beefcake forever. And I got Valentine from a friend who was moving and was like, oh, here, man. I was like 10. I was like, okay, thanks. He had every figure. He was an only child. His parents got him everything.
With wrestling superstars, it's like having a real match right in your own home. There's Jimmy Superfly Stuka. Iron Sheik. Hulk Hogan and Big John Studd. And now you can fly 'em and flip 'em in the Swing 'em Wrestling Ring. Wrestling superstars and new wrestling ring, each sold separately from LJN.
Yeah, those figures go, if you have them mint, they go for a pretty penny today. Because those action figures, you play with them like 3 times and all the paint would fucking wear off of them anyway. So it was like Hulk Hogan's like pantless. Like they were, the paint applications were on there were bad. Some of them look really, really great. Like they're good. If you see them on display, they look fantastic. If you have a mint collection of them, there's some really nifty, some really cool customs out there. Like there's some guys out there that can make any figure out of any figure. It's like, oh, we're gonna take this this Tito Santana and make Mr. Perfect, and they do what they do, and they're able to change them. But those are not fucking cheap action figures they get, and I'm surprised because they were so abundant.
Yeah,
like, there was so many. They're not like other than the last wave, which is the '89 wave, the black card wave. Like none of those action figures are rare. Now there might be some variants that are rare, but none of those like that Hulk Hogan's not fucking rare.
Maybe they were loaded with lead paint.
They were loaded with all types of fucking shit. Like those figures, in terms of playing with them, they suck. Like I know, like there's a big community and people really love those LJN, WWF action figures. But if you talk in terms of playability, they're just a rubber doll that's fucking heavy as hell.
G.I. Joe was the way to go.
G.I. Joe was probably the best action figure of that era. Yeah, I mean, because in terms of what you can do. Now, even the AWA had action figures from Remco, which was weird. They had Ric Flair action figures, which is weird. They all look like Masters of the Universe figures, which is off-putting. Like Michael P.S. Hayes don't look like that. Michael P.S. Hayes doesn't have abs. What the fuck?
Oh yeah, they're all like jacked now, no matter who they are. Like they feel like Brother Booger or Bastion Booger. Look at that.
Are they the worst action figures of the '80s? No, not by a long shot. But for a collector, they're cool if you're not going to play with those. Like, if you want to have them on display, they look fantastic. Like, I desperately want that red shirt, the white shirt, red trunks Hogan. But even that, like, goes for like $100. And I can't justify that to myself. You know, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. But yeah, they look good on display. The playability is not the best on those action figures. Like, the Hasbro ones were much better. They came out in '90. The figures now are alright. I wouldn't buy them though. But what are you gonna do? So that is WWF '84 in a nutshell. Next up, we're going to talk about the greatest Royal Rumble. Now, this show has been met with lots of controversy. Some of it warranted. Some of it seemed to be a little over the top for me. You know, the biggest controversy coming out of this show. There's two really big ones. So I don't want to downplay either of them. It's the first one being that women were not allowed to participate and work this show. The second is the reported death threats that the Daivari brothers got for being a pro-Iran team in Saudi Arabia. Not from Saudi Arabians, by the way. They're not getting death threats from them. They're getting death threats from Iranians. Because I guess they made Iran look bad on pay-per-view or on the network. I don't know. Did they even have the WWE network in Iran? I have no idea.
I don't know.
It's weird. So I don't know if that's... that could be a work.
Yeah.
But in terms of women not being able on the show, now it is... I'm of the opinion, and this may go against a lot of people here, right? Maybe listening to this show. I'm going to preface this by saying, if you're getting your moral compass from a corporation, you are lost.
Yeah.
If you have this expectation that anything positive when it comes down to, being progressive, charitable works, is not simply for public relations, then you're wrong. Because everything they do in terms of that is public relations, right?
Yeah.
Now, having women not being on this show in the midst of the women's revolution that's going on currently in the WWE, does it seem to be hypocritical? Yes, because it is. It is hypocritical. It is a bad optic. But you throw $25-50 million at a corporation, nah, they'll take the hit on this one and take that money every single time. You know, if you're super outraged about this, you have every right to be if you want to be. But if you're super outraged about this and not super outraged about the literally 50 other things that they've done, they may not be illegal, but you can consider them immoral that they've done in the past, then why is this the hill that you're going to die on? Yeah, it seems to be very strange to me. No, but it is very hypocritical. The bad optic. Should the WWE be performing in Saudi Arabia? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Who am I to say? I'm not running their business. It is hypocritical. And no one, essentially, in terms of mainstream media, has, number one, pointed them out or called them on the carpet for this.
No.
And I'm willing to wager when Stephanie McMahon goes to these women empowerment conferences that she goes to a lot as of late, I don't think anyone's going to say anything about it. So why are you mad? What's interesting to me, which is the silver lining that I'm going to pull out of this, right? Which is it's a terrible situation. I don't know if I would have booked that, but again, if you put that money in a briefcase in front of me, I'm like, y'all can stay home. I don't know. But the silver lining about this is that women's wrestling, in general, is at the level right now that people will be mad that it's not on the show.
Yeah.
10 years ago, no one would have gave a shit. So you can see the level of importance that women's wrestling has on the wrestling world itself. So that's good to see, that people are actually angry that I'm not going to be able to see, Sasha Banks versus Bayley in Saudi Arabia. So Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that when I was watching it, what really went through my head was the commercials. And I was like, wait a minute, are they seeing this in the arena too?
They were.
And that's where I was like, oh, interesting way to kind of circumvent that. So it's a typical thing. You want to break in the territory. I think if you want to introduce people to other things and culturally, there's, how I feel about religion. So it's letting those things get out of control when you start trampling on rights. And, whether you like it or not, it is someone's right to get in the ring and perform. Here you go. I just think that it takes things too far, and I think that this show was a foot in the door, and if they say, hey, we want to do another show in X amount of time or a year from now.
They'll be back in November, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they want that, then they're going to say eventually the fans are going to want to see more. Yeah. And that's how they bring women's rights to Arabia. That'd be kind of funny, but...
Number one, stranger things have happened. Now, when it comes to being progressive, when it comes to charitable works, when it comes to the corporations in general, now, again, there's always ulterior motives. But if they're really helping people, like they do a lot of Make-A-Wishes, they do stuff for breast cancer, regardless of what their motives are for doing these things, whether it be public relations or not, what have you, people are still getting help, so I give them credit for that. Now, are they hypocrites? Yes.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, but you're going to take the mulligan on them they're like, we're just going to take this money and let you guys be mad. Fuck it. But it's always curious about what's people's breaking point when it comes to WWE and some of the, the things they've done in the past and the things that they will upset you in the future. Trust me, more will come. Now, the other thing that was interesting was the whole Iran. It's weird because that's such a staple of wrestling in the United States.
Yeah.
Like, we've had the xenophobia, foreign menace thing here forever. That's literally since day one of wrestling. Was it in poor taste? Was it not in poor taste? I don't know. Was Sergeant Slaughter in poor taste? Fitz Von Erich being a Nazi, is that in poor taste? I don't know. Every single Japanese wrestler, Pearl Harboring somebody. Now, what's interesting is that for the Daivari brothers, now, Sean Daivari does not work for the WWE, by the way. So he was there.
Yep.
But when I was watching it, when it was going down, I felt very uncomfortable. I was, in fear for these guys. And I don't know what that says about me. I'm like, I don't think the average Saudi Arabian person is going to fucking try to kill the Daivari brothers. I don't think they're going to try to set their car on fire. I don't think they're going to riot. They basically got their ass kicked. You know what I mean? They put over the local talent. local Saudi Arabian wrestlers, and they did what they were supposed to do in terms of that. Now, if you're Iranian, I don't know how you feel, but tell me how you feel about the Iron Sheik. Are people mad about it for no reason? I don't know. What do you think?
I think internet outrage. I was watching that and I laughed because to me it was such that show. I were like, oh, all the stuff there was very simple, basic stuff for the fans, nothing too complex. And for me, that felt like such a Bush League. We're here in Canada. Well, look out! Here come the Quebecers, or some, whatever. Just like
it is a little bit. It's pandering. Let's be honest.
It's pandering, And I laughed. I thought it was a fantastic performance. I thought they did a great job. But to me, it was sort of like, and if you can play along here, it was sort of a way to say, you know what? This kind of stupid bullshit works in any culture.
Everywhere.
Like if you were in Colombia, you could be like, the Ecuadorians are here. Or if you were in Ireland, the English are here,
What does it say about us as human beings in general?
Oh, it's just a tradition that there's always rivalries and hatred and everything else. And wrestling is about exploiting it. That's what they do. They exploit rivalries and emotions. And there's no different, So when I saw the post by, I think, one of the brothers, I don't know which one it was, but he was saying like, oh, we're just playing a role. Like, I wanted to write back and go, I want to know where the apology is from Josh Brolin for his performance as Thanos, because what he did was outrageous, and I want an apology. Get over yourself. It's like a lot of things.
Well, it goes back to, I think we talked about this in the past, this weird position that professional wrestlers are in, where people don't understand that they're playing a fictional character. They are a fictional character in a fictional world. You know what I mean? Right. And people think they're not fictional characters. It's so bizarre. Like, kayfabe's been dead for 30 years, people. Like, I'm pretty sure the Vari brothers are, like, from the United States.
It's one of those things, like, it's actually why I think we didn't see Mustafa Ali, because I don't know his...
Well, we didn't see Sami Zayn didn't go, and he is Syrian. He didn't appear on the show, and they didn't even mention his name on the show.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But according to reports, that all the female performers got paid, and so did Sami Zayn. It's weird. It's a weird thing. But the show itself, we talk about the greatest Royal Rumble. 1992 is the greatest Royal Rumble. This wasn't even close. It did seem kind of basic, but I think they dumbed it down for that audience. Not because the audience is dumb, it's because they've never necessarily seen wrestling before. So they need everyone to understand what's going on. Although, those guys must have been tired, man. Because a lot of them looked out of gas. And they were botchy as fuck.
Oh, yeah, lots of botchy.
Like, big cast, Bobby Lashley almost fucking killed him.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
He fucking dropped him on his fucking head. And then you had our good friend Titus O'Neil, who is now a world famous internet meme.
Yeah, and he's Mr. Tripsy, which I hate that.
Well, you knew they were going to do that as soon as that happened. They're like, he's going to be falling down all the time now.
It's going to be great. Let's have him fall down the ropes. People will laugh. I want to go into a bat and just break legs. No, they won't. It's hack. God, it's awful. It's like, no, the kids don't care. It's like a clown. It's like, yeah, we get it. Whatever. Ugh.
Well, you knew as soon as that happens, like, they're gonna make this into fucking something.
Oh, totally. I was like, yep, here we go.
Here we go. Oh, that's hilarious. It's stupid. Poor Apollo Crews, by the way, who has to be with this shit. He's a hell of a performer. No personality, though, that we've seen on TV yet, but hell of a performer, though. Completely fucking unreal. So nothing necessarily happened on that show. Like, you didn't get that. You want to talk about that finish with the Brock Lesnar and the Roman Reigns and he did the Russo finish on that?
Nah, just whatever. Weak. It would
have made more sense if Brock went out solo. Like, he speared him through the cage and he fell through the cage and then won.
Here's my take, if you want to call it my prediction.
Yeah.
My prediction is, if you want to salvage any kind of money power, because after a while it's getting to the point where Roman Reigns is no longer just unpopular, people don't give a shit.
Right.
And that's going to start hurting his value. What you want to do is you bring back your Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose gets all the love in the world. You have Reigns notice this. and have him turn on him and have a whole promo. I've been here busting my ass for years. This guy just shows up and you love him? No. You know, like, just have it be enough's enough, you know?
But they keep on having him in this nebulous, I'm too cool to care about what you think kind of fucking thing.
That's why
he needs to care what the people think. Some people either going to get behind him or people are going to hate him and they're not going to be ambivalent. Is that even a word? No,
yeah, it is now.
You got to make him care one way or the other now. Some of the audience is booing him. Some of the audience is cheering him. I see a lot of Roman Reigns supporters on Twitter, which is interesting to me. They love him. He doesn't get the reaction in the crowd, and that's a taught reaction. Like, if he gets booed on TV in one town, he'll get booed on TV the next town. Like, because that's what the fans think they're supposed to do. Like, it's like John Cena, or, it's like booing John Cena. It's like saying, you suck to Kurt Angle. It's a learned response. So I was like, I don't know what they're doing with him. I feel bad for him. I'm starting to feel bad for him. Not bad enough to see him want to beat Brock Lesnar at this point. That should go to Samoa Joe at this point. But I was like, you're okay. It's not your fault. They're just booking you like shit. But they had this thing about like the underdog champion. Like, oh, we're just gonna beat this guy 1,000 times till the fans love him. Like, no. You can do that, the heels, right? Heels losing all the time is okay. Baby faces losing all the time, they're fucking dead. Been that way forever. It's never going to change. It's completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Makes me sick. Alright, guys, so we are officially out of time. So check us out on our next episode,